Welcome back, everybody. We're getting ready for our next best of two here for our 2022 summer split here for Academy. I'm Mad Magical, joined in again by Joshi. So, unfortunately, Salon's a host for the day, so I'll have to replace that title and duty. Do I even have it? Oh, I do. I have a crown. I can title myself. I am now the king of the broadcast. You must. Yeah. This is just how it's going to go now.
Okay. Well, we'll see if we can get like some kind of Magna Carta going at some point, because colorcasters still have rights. Magical, we will still need some opportunities to go things, but we saw two banger games.
We did. Those games were quite crazy, especially the first game. What, 41 minutes that took place between both FlyQuest Academy and Evil Geniuses Academy, where somehow FlyQuest were able to barely find victory.
Yeah, and we saw that it was kind of a similar story in both games, right? At the very beginning, FlyQuest was jumping out to early leads, but they had some stumbling blocks in the mid-game where Evil Geniuses were able to fire back. And as we start getting some of our highlights going of our last game, we can kind of see that Evil Geniuses, I said this several times, they weren't doing anything fancy, right? They weren't necessarily going for these huge macro play where they just slowly take all these turrets and you can't do anything about it because you are grouped into the wrong spot on the map. Nope. They just grouped up, Surdy went for flanks, Tomio tried to get things started, and it worked, right? Because they just front to back or like tear apart your battle lines so much easier.
And Cowrie's positioning was excellent throughout that series. That's something I think we've always been looking for. Like, why we've also been really critical towards Evil Geniuses so far in the split is that Cowrie, we know what he's capable of, and his positioning just hasn't been quite there. But also, I do want to kind of reel back the conversation, talk about the early game, because that's where it felt like Evil Geniuses struggled the most.
It definitely was really rough, right? I feel like
Both
Tomio
games.
kind of got bullied a lot throughout the course of the series. He didn't have an opportunity to really go into his jungle. He was constantly being invaded by Yuji, and to Yuji's credit, that's a lot of growth from this player. He was the kind of player who was not necessarily always doing a whole lot at the beginning of last split, but we always knew he was mechanically gifted. We always knew he could play these things like assassins. He just needed to find his confidence, and now he's not just going for like these invades, he's able to find a big advantage kind of on his own.
And the thing about Yuji, it's just always fun to watch how he plays, because I think he's one of those upcoming junglers that is just exciting, right? This player from Mongolia, one of the first that we've ever had in competitive, and how he used to play on 100+ ping for different regions and then getting challenger in 3 different regions on that ping as well. So he's got the capabilities, he's got the strengths, but the big thing for FlyQuest is, I think as you talked about, there's still those weaknesses and there's still those angles that they get themselves into and just get punished by Evil Geniuses.
Yeah, we always talk about like the confidence of players going in, right? And I feel like this was definitely a situation where FlyQuest weren't feeling quite as confident. It looked like Kuma was feeling really good about his play today, right? But for everybody else, they would kind of take things in half measures, and that's not something that you can do up against a team like Evil Geniuses, who they don't half-ass anything. They're going to whole-ass everything, right? Every single time you see Surdy looking for these opportunities, he's going to make the plays even if he's wrong, even if the play doesn't make sense. He's going to commit to it, and that gives them so many opportunities to play up against a team that's a little bit less coordinated, right? You saw Diamond, he uses his Abyssal Voyage out in that last play before walking back, and then he's like, all my friends are dead.
Yup. I mean, one thing I will say about Evil Geniuses as an org entirely right now is both LCS and Academy function very similarly, right? They both want to look for these aggressive plays. They're willing to coin flip. They make these flashy, fun plays that you just get excited to watch. And this series did not relent on that. Evil Geniuses really were looking for those crazy plays, and like Saligo was looking for the plays, Surdy was looking for the plays, Calorie always diving in and making sure that it was calculated this time around.
And when you're able to make those kind of plays, you will rapidly improve as a team. We know that Evil Geniuses during spring was not the happiest of campers, and we're seeing like shades of whether or not that might still be an issue for them even now that Smoothie has come in. But if you look at how they're able to play some of these mid games, they clearly trust each other again. They clearly are willing to make plays around different members, and it's kind of crazy how well players like Harry are able to thrive in these kind of environments. Remember, like in this play, Tomio doesn't have Smite, and Harry is the one who has to go toe-to-toe up against Yuji.
Exactly. It's like Cowrey's going toe-to-toe against Yuji, and I think even Kumo. The Gangplank versus Ezreal. The crazier thing, though, is that Ezreal actually has a level lead over Gangplank, and that's why they feel so confident. They feel so powerful here in this situation because they know they already have these massive leads for their carries.
Yeah. And it's the kind of thing where, like, once Cowrie starts becoming really strong, as soon as he waits out all of the other abilities, he's able to draw threats towards him and escape them. And that's something where you don't necessarily see a lot of other AD carriers in the Academy scene really be able to match him for. So I'm excited to see if we can ever get this guy back to the peaks of where he was in spring. We're seeing glimpses of it, but it's not necessarily fully in picture yet.
Yeah, we got to see more of this kind of gameplay throughout the season from Evil Geniuses, even if they end up going back to their curse of 1-1, right? Even if it ends up being the same thing where they split each series 1-1, it's better than having these rocky starts where you go 0-2, you don't look like you have a place on the map. This time, even in their loss, they looked like they understood their place. They had good positioning. Just sometimes it was just one thing that the other team did slightly better that was able to punish them.
Yeah, we have to remember the way that this team looks at the regular season, right? Surdy has been on record as saying, yeah, I don't really care about the regular season that much. It's just another way to get good scrims in, to make sure that we're executing well on our practices, because at the end of the day, the real tournament is proving grounds at the end of everything. That is where you're looking to make your mark, and every team from Academy gets to play in Proving Grounds. The only question is whether or not you have to play an extra round at the beginning up against some of the, admittedly weaker amateur teams.
And speaking of more teams playing in Proving Grounds, we have two more on the docket today to play against one another that obviously will be able to play in Proving Grounds. CLG Academy and 100 Thieves Academy. Both teams looking incredibly strong now that they've gotten their rosters fully together.
Yeah, and you might have noticed already, I'm a little biased on it today. We got the CLG.
I got mine too, but I don't wear it. Okay, do I wear? No, I'm not gonna. I don't like to wear the teams I'm casting on broadcast. I'll wear someone else's. Like if I'd wear a Cloud9 one today just because I'm not casting Cloud9 today.
Well, I guess that's just the difference between you and me. I can be a whole Jenkins fanboy today. He's been looking pretty decent so far over the course. I've known him since the Team Liquid days, but we got the 100 Thieves roster on our screen. And going up against Jenkins, we got Tenacity, who has been absolutely stellar throughout this entire season so far. He's been able to take over multiple games. He is controlling not only his part of the map, but he's also expanding that lead so that everybody else gets a piece of the pie. But
the thing is, you talk about Tenacity, and my eyes are on Will. I think Will has come into this season red hot. He is looking aggressive. This is reminiscent to how he was at the latter half of last year's summer split when he joined in for Dignitas and was just absolutely crushing it. I'm excited to see this player continuing on forward. I think that this is the guy we got to keep our eyes on.
Yeah, we actually had a bit of a disagreement coming into this series about whether or not Will is really strong. And I know, I will speak up early. I think he is currently our second best performing jungler, but performance is not necessarily the same as individual strength. But I know you're very excited about him. Why should we be ready for Will?
I mean, Will, I think, is one player that's been able to utilize the strength from his lanes to find these leads, to invade early, to make sure he's putting his opponents on edge right out of the gates. Plus, his team fighting has been immaculate. Like, if we take a look at the footage that I have all lined up for how Will plays in these jungle matchups, you can see that he's really good at calling in his team to make sure they can back him up. Or here, I like this play because he knows that most likely that was warded. He waits until his team is ready to go and Cowrie smoothly step up a little bit too far forward so they can then turn this play effectively, knowing even underneath the turret, they're not safe. They cannot escape because they already caught them into their trap. And then looking at the next play that we'll have here in just a second, this one is, I'm trying to remember the play because I thought I had one of the earlier gameplays, but I think this is one of the ones where he had, oh no, this is just where he had a really good team fight with Lilia, starting it off with the Lilting Lullaby, going into what I was talking about with the team fight setup, that he's great at making sure that he can set up his team for these team fights, that they are able to then clean up quickly and win these games effectively.
Yeah. And I agree. Like, he's been performing quite well. I already said, I think he's our second best after Armeo, who it's hard to argue against because he's on the winningest team, right? That's a pretty good darn performance. Will has been looking pretty good, and 100 Thieves have been on their way back. But now, my question is, how much of this is Will, and how much of this is everybody else coming around to support? And we touched briefly on Tenacity, and as we take a look at some of the B-roll for that play, we get to see Tenacity is winning Will's lane for him. Right? He's able to walk in, he's able to beat up people like XU, he takes away chickens, he gets the kills, and this is not something that is unique to just this game. While we do get 2 clips from the same game where he just comes in and one axe takes away all the chickens, we have to say, if Will is not doing well in these kind of games, what more can you ask for? They're winning 2v2's bottom lane while they're playing Senna Tom Kench against Cowrie Smoothie. Tenacity is taking away opposing red buffs. Will is performing well, but that should be the expectation. I don't know if he's necessarily deserving of saying he's super sick just quite yet. It's not saying that he's not. He's just got so much strength around him that we expect him to look good.
No, and that's a fair argument. I think that there's fair arguments on both sides. Obviously, we're going to keep our eyes on his future here in the summer split. I'm expecting great things out of him and the rest of 100 Thieves Academy. But we got to move on the discussion to the next team, the team that they're facing off against, CLG Academy. You had kind of touched on it a little bit, Jenkins, someone that was exciting. I mean, we're all Jenkins fanboys. We all are excited. We want to see Jenkins back in the LCS, but, you know, Dokla as well. Dokla's just been popping off, so it's hard to make that argument that Dokla does not deserve the LCS either.
Maybe they both deserve it, but today we got to talk about, as much as I love Jenkins, as much as we got to defend the faith, today we got to talk a little bit about Rosethorn, because if we're looking at Will, we got to look back at the history between these two players, and both of them, I feel like they're kind of journeymen in the way that they are approaching their plays here, and in fact, this comes from almost a year ago. This comes from last August, Alex, where we got to see Golden Guardians Rosethorn up against Dignitas Academy Will, and we get to see that both of them are kind of popping off a little bit at different points throughout the games. And both these guys currently at similar positions in their careers, trying to prove that they have what it takes. And while Will took off some time in order to go back to school, now that he's back in Academy, we know that he can really take off.
Yeah, he's a really good player. Honestly, both of them are. This is kind of like that revisit of the two players on different organizations. I think that's why we are looking at them so heavily, especially because when we look at CLG, Rosethorn was not the jungler that was meant to be for the split. It was meant to be Kevy, and there's still been the visa issues. But Rosethorn has been able to step in very well, and that's why we say pretty much the roster is complete. Even if Kevy's not here, Rosethorn being a part of that first place finish, the first seed finish from the spring split for CLG Academy, is still a dominant jungler.
Yeah, and we know, like, in some of their successes, it really came about from Rosethorn having intelligent early pathing. Eventually, it felt like other teams kind of figured him out a little bit, and he wasn't nearly as dominant early on in the game. He wasn't able to get inventive ganks mid lane. He wasn't quite as able to get Dokla as far ahead as we know Dokla likes to be, and you know, they kind of faltered out towards the second half, but that doesn't mean that Rosethorn was necessarily struggling. He just needs to re-find his footing. He needs to find that confidence once again, and now that he's kind of fighting for a potential spot, not just on CLG Academy, but to potentially get picked up coming into 2023 for another Academy roster, I think he's actually been performing quite well thus far.
I agree. I mean, that's why I think this jungle matchup has got to be where the highlight is, because both players, one, trying to make sure that he battles his way back either to stay on CLG Academy as the permanent jungler or set himself perfectly for another team for the 2023 season. And then you have Will, the new kid on the block, because we saw him last year. But this guy who is pretty damn good. He's been able to get a lot of control. Young, talented player. I feel like there's a lot of young, talented players right now in the entirety of the Proven Grand Circuit, and Will is just one that's standing just a little bit above the rest.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see, right? We saw that Will was picked up. He went into 100 Thieves next before jumping right on back up into Academy, and he's had success, right? People know that this guy has plenty of potential, but it's a matter of living up to it. And right now, you know, I feel like this is one of the best places for a journeyman to be, right? Similar to Rosethorn, he was surrounded by a lot of talent. He was surrounded by a lot of people who already knew how they wanted to play the game, and it allowed him to just kind of slot in and figure out how he wants to support that kind of game plan, or whether or not he wants to lead that kind of game plan. Will's in a similar spot. He's surrounded by Tenacity and Busio and Jimian, three players who have a ton of experience and are, well, experience, right? They are very, very good at what they do, and it allows Will to have a lot of freedom to kind of explore how he wants to play the game a little bit more. So I'm expecting that Will, towards the end of the split, will be one of our top performers, but, or not just performers, but also just like look really darn good.
And while we have a little bit of more time to kill, let's talk about this bot lane. Let's talk about Meech versus Bmfx. Because Meech was this AD carry that, myself included, were very hyped up to see. Finally, here he is. Got the visa issues all completed. Now it's playing for CLG. Did a great job last week playing in his first series. And this time, it's up against Bmfx, another new face to the Academy circuit, but one that's not necessarily been as hyped up as Meech has been.
Yeah, and it's definitely been interesting to watch, right? Like Bmfx, he thinks of himself as somebody who needs a lot of work in the laning phase, but is a really strong team fighter. And so far, you know, to Busio's credit, he's been making Bmfx's lane look pretty darn good, right? The fact that they are winning these 2v2s up against Kaori Smoothie, the fact that they are finding all of these kills as Senna Tom Kench is kind of ridiculous to actually watch, right? We are seeing that Bmfx is having a lot of success. Whereas Meech, you know, coming right on in, he was replacing Luger. Right, Luger was so good. This team 2-0'd Team Liquid Academy in dominating fashion. Meech comes in and he's good, but it's like holding up a candle to like an incandescent lamp, right? It's just like in your face. Like, what are you gonna do? You're at the interrogation table, and it's tough, right? Like Meech looks good, but to say that he's ready to be the next Luger, not quite yet.
Right. Well, obviously, that's still something.
That's
it's a tall task to ask because Luger, if you even look at how he's played in the LCS, just last split, this split, still a strong marksman player. And Meech here, he's only played one series so far. We've seen him in the past in Proving Grounds. We know how good he is, but he's still got to prove himself that, one, he deserves his spot here. This is why he got picked up, and two, why he deserves to move up to the LCS, similar to Luger, and have that kind of path and trajectory in his career.
Yeah, and so this is going to be their big task, right? It's Meech and Breezy going up against Bmfx and Busio, and this is their challenge, right? If Bmfx claims to not be that good of a laner, but Busio is a really sick laner, how can you punish that? How can Meech and Breezy prove that as somebody who have played a little bit longer, actually just push around this bottom lane? If CLG's bottom lane can win up against Bmfx and Busio, it sets them up for so much success on the rest of the map, and this is one of those like testing points where you need to be able to beat this bot lane if you want to really challenge for the top of the table.
See, this is where my eyes go to that Senna Tom Kench that we've seen a lot out of Bmfx and Busio, or even the Senna Seraphine that we've seen out of, where a lot of things are up in the air on how they approach going into this game. And I want to see if CLG try to target that, especially now that we have Champion Select ready. So let's dive into this and see how these teams approach one another and what they want to take off the table.
Yeah. Now, as we start getting into this, I do have to feel a little bit better about some of the things that I used to be doing, because I talk about it a lot. I used to play in rec leagues with Rafa. We're looking to continue doing it, and that was one of the bottom lanes that we kind of pioneered in our rec league, was the Senna Seraphine. This bottom lane has been sick for a long time, you guys, and the fact that the pros are just now figuring it out is very exciting. But as we go into this actual draft, the big question to me is 100 Thieves going to be able to play yet another game of Senna? They have played it every single time since Busio has rejoined.
And I'm hoping that is not the case here. I'm hoping CLG have learned the lessons that others have not, and take away the potential for even the Seraphine Senna lane. Seraphine? Yeah, I'm trying to think of like
Serena?
Sarah, or the Sarah. It could just be the Sarah. There it is. Seraphina has been banned, but not the Senna, which surprises me a bit.
Yeah, it's not as though you can't play Senna with other things, but it is not ridiculous for Meech to potentially just pick it up right here. While he hasn't played it so far during the summer split, it's
he's only played 2
every AD carry could do. Okay, well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. He hasn't played it yet, but he can do it. We know he can do it.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. It's like, just because he hasn't played it yet, that's not much to say, because he's only played 2 games. You're not going to be able to play every single AD carry in those 2 games. And having two marksmen already banned towards them leans to the fact that they just want to deny the Senna outright by just picking it themselves, like you called.
Yeah, so now we have to ask, what is Bmfx going to actually be playing, right? He's played most of his games so far on Senna and Lucian. He's only played Senna since Busio has come back, but he has played Ezreal, Kalista, and Ophelia. So, There's lots of options for him still available. They're all still very good, and if the Kalista gets locked in, it's really challenging some of the early game weaknesses that Senna plus whatever tends to have.
Whoa!
The Pike!
That is not what I expected. I was like, okay, Kalista, Renata Glosk, that's been kind of the typical thing we've seen in the bot lane, but Bucio's Pike is making an appearance here on the Rift.
Yo, I love this pick. Pike is so good into Tahm Kench, right? Because the big thing about this that you have to remember is that Pike's ultimate ignores shields, right? And so not only can you hook Tahm Kench for the 2-for-1 hook, but you can just ignore his shield. And so it really forces Breezy to showcase how much he understands the champion. You can't just sit around and wait for the really big shield all at once, because then you're going to be dead. You have to be spamming it on cooldown to stop as much damage before getting to that point. And I gotta say, it's not just solo queue Tahm Kenches that don't know how to do that. We haven't been seeing that kind of mastery even at the LCS level.
So this is where I'd actually like to see a pivot and go for something maybe more like, I don't know, Cho'Gath? Just because I want to see the Senna Cho'Gath lane. I like it.
It's a good lane.
It's a good lane. I don't know how it does into a Pike, though. That's the only problem. And here, looking at what they will lock in, it's going to be that Tahm Kench. They got Volibear with Tahm Kench into the bot lane. Pretty standard for the side of CLG, even though it's taken a minute to actually lock in. Waiting for it. Waiting for it. Tick tock.
Longest 0 seconds of my life.
I was about to say, did time freeze? Are we still functioning? Where's a clock?
There it is. It looks like we might be going back in, as we do see these two big beefy boys coming out from CLG. Very standard game plan already coming out from them. You have the Senna, you got a bunch of people in front of the Senna. Senna keeps them healthy, they do damage, it's all good to go. Please, please, please lock it in. Not that one.
They're trolling us.
Okay.
They're going through everything right now. I have a feeling that
Zach is really good here.
Yo,
yes!
It is the
yes!
Zach!
Yes!
Okay! Now go on your tirade on why Zach is good here.
Zach is so good here because he is a scaling champion. There's not threats coming out from CLG early on in the game. Senna Tahm Kench is not supposed to be winning lane. The Volibear can invade, but Zach is going to be insanely good once you hit level 9. You can start going for your Frostfire or whatever mythic you want to, and then things like the Demonic Embrace just make this guy super tanky and do a ton of damage. So 100 Thieves, they have an early game. They have a scaling champion in the Zach. They've already figured out how they're going to be getting their engages going, and they have so many tools available. Every single person on this team can already dictate when a fight can happen. 100 Thieves, I love this draft coming out from them.
And here into the second part of the bans, we're seeing some scaling options taken away by 100 Thieves to make sure that it's even more difficult for them to keep up with the scaling that they have. But I'm looking at 100 Thieves, and that right now is the only element that really will scale excellently into the game. Senna Tahm Kench, well, yeah, they are going to be a solid bot lane. They're not really going to do anything to really punish the side. If you look at 100 Thieves, Kalista and Pike, they don't necessarily scale the best unless you can get those early snowball leads for Bucio.
Yeah. And it's not as though like this bottom lane scales like super poorly. It's just a question of whether or not they will be allowed to continue hitting it into Volibear and Tahm Kench. I feel like we're having a bit of a buggy draft. There has to be something else coming through there. We will get that updated for you guys relatively soon, as the Ahri does show up on my screen.
There we go. There it is.
But,
okay. I had a non-ban at first, so I was like, wait a minute. That's weird, but there we go. Ahri and Fiora.
Yeah. But that's the question, right? Can Kalista hit up against Volibear and Tahm Kench? The answer is yes. So now CLG needs to come up with more threats.
Oh, I like
Thieves. This draft is not standard for this level of play, but it is very exciting. It has a lot of tools. Again, 4 members have the ability to get fights started on their own terms. Everybody has agency, and if you think you are just a better team, giving all of your players these tools is very good.
What I also like about the Yone is, while it is blind here, it is a flex pick. You can put that mid, you can put that top. It's easily playable in either of those lanes. I'm expecting it to be top lane going into the Snar, try to see if you can get something. It's not necessarily the easiest matchup for Yone, but the LeBlanc is a lot worse. So looking at what Jimmy is now going to grab for himself, Corki is looking like something that they can get be pretty good at wave clear, try to see if it can contend against triple and deny that roaming potential LeBlanc has.
I love 100 Thieves draft. It is so good. It has so many tools, and the only real risk that this team is going to really be worried about is if Will doesn't get to play the game. But as we've already kind of identified, right, their lanes are winning when they're not even supposed to. Bmfx and Busio beat up Kaori Smoothie Ascena Tom Kench into Lucian Nami. That's not supposed to be happening. If Bmfx and Busio can have a similar effect here against Meech and Breezy, the game could just very quickly end because Will gets to do whatever they want. You have Zach scaling, you have Corki scaling, you have Yone who becomes a monster in the mid game. Everything is currently set up for 100 Thieves to have success. They are very confident going into this, and now they need to prove that it's actual confidence and not arrogance.
Because that's the big thing, right? Is you look at the other side, and this seems more like a typical draft that we've been seeing on this patch.
Very meta.
The Gnar top lane, Volibear, LeBlanc for their own potential, but let's dive onto the Rift. Let's see how this game unfolds between our two squads vying for a top position. CLG Academy, 100 Thieves Academy. One has a normal draft, one has a spicy one. We'll see if that will end up coming out on top.
Yeah, so whenever I see unusual champions like this Zach, you kind of have to ask, how is it going to be affecting the way that the game is played out, right? And again, we kind of know how you play this champion, right? You don't have a lot of agency early on in the game, but once you hit level 4, you can start going for ganks, and later on, you become so difficult to kill. You can take these incredibly long grinding fights, but the thing we have to note is that from what I can see, Will has never played this champion in a competitive environment before.
Huh. Interesting. I mean, he is young. Let's keep that in mind, that he is a young player, and it doesn't mean that he hasn't ever played it, but that's very interesting. His first competitive game of Zach going against Rosethorn on Volibear. Not just any Volibear either. It is Press the Attack Volibear.
Yeah. I mean, he's threatening to invade, and so the pressure is on Rosethorn to get things started and be more relevant in the early game and the early mid game so that Will can't really play. And this is that challenge, right? You're saying that Will is performing quite well. His goal this game is to not get found out by Rosethorn, but he is already spotted on the wards, and so he needs to be able to adapt. I think he knows he's on a ward.
Yeah, they're pinging it, and we're pretty sure there's eyes here. Starts with those Raptors, which is actually pretty typical of Zach, just because Zach is really good with the AoE, utilizing his Q to clear out the minions. No, Q, it's his W, sorry. His W to clear out the wave really fast, and then even going to Krugs as the secondary, not even touching the red buff just yet.
Yeah, I mean, his single target damage isn't super effective, but oh my gosh, Jimian firing back onto triple. This is pretty darn good, right? We were looking at this early game. Corki is kind of not great early on unless you can get the whole Gatling gun off on a single target, and that's what he's doing, right? He's landing the phosphorus bomb, he's landing all of the Gatling gun, and suddenly these trades that are typically pretty decent for LeBlanc, Jimian is winning them, and this is why I was looking at Will, right? I was like, how well is he playing? Yeah, he's playing fine, right? He's doing well, he's doing his job, but it's because of players like Jimian and Tenacity and Bmfx and Busio that Will is allowed to play these things like the Zach.
Right there, sidestepping the ethereal chains from triple, so he doesn't take the explosive damage from the Orb of Malice. Good stuff out of these lanes so far from the side of 100 Thieves, making sure they're not getting themselves in a position to be punished early on.
Yeah. So it's looking quite good, right? Tenacity falling back. The Yone's first couple of levels isn't very exciting, and the thing that you always have to remember is, like, you ask, does this champion have a good matchup into Gnar? Well, it's one simple question. Can you get onto Gnar more than once? And
can you?
Not as Yone, right? Like, it is very hard to get onto Gnar more than once. So, like, Jenkins is going to have a pretty decent time early on into this game, and it's going to be Tenacity who's going to be a little bit on the back foot, and maybe Jenkins will have some time to get some counter jungling done, but he just gets a ward down, he sees the Krugs are already gone, and Rosethorn has backed away. He's not even necessarily looking to get an early gank off, and, well, gets to full clear with no molestation.
Well, I think that Rosethorn is more looking to keep up with Will, because a great thing about Zach, what we haven't gotten to see in a long time, is that elastic slingshot. And the distance you can cover, especially like as you get more, like you talked about, more and more into the game, scale a bit more, how long that range can be.
And we already see it right now for the first time. Will and Rosethorn, our journeymen, are coming vaguely into contact with each other. But
Yeah,
are going
just
to be
kind of
backing away.
passing ships. Yeah, more like passing ships, making sure, like I said, Rosethorn is back on the map, making sure that Will isn't looking for a play down bot. It's mid lane trade pretty healthy on the side of each of them. Not quite at that range to fall just yet, even though it looks like they're low. Keep in mind that there's no more corrupting bot stacks for the side of Triple. As well, you don't have any more hailing from the side of Jimmy, and so they'll probably just recall TP back into lane to make sure they're topped off.
Yeah, okay, so Jimian, he is going to see that Rosethorn is going in, and there's a challenge between these two.
Challenge, but with Triple having a little bit more health than Jimian, does seem that
gosh, he
Rosethorn
gets
feels a
all
lot
of the
more
camp.
confident. Yeah, there you go. All
Let's
right.
go, Will.
Nicely done. I'm surprised. I think he actually lost. No, he got everything. You're right.
He maybe lost one like small one, but Rosethorn is now challenging again. This is what Rosethorn needs to try and do, but he doesn't necessarily have the support of Jenkins.
Should be able to at least get in. Smite secured by the side of Rosethorn to take away one of the camps, but not going to be able to take the rest of the Krug. So a good amount of golden experience will be secured by Will.
Yeah, Will, I mean, very happy with the situation. He has lost the big Krug so far, and maybe one chicken over to the invades from Rosethorn. But Will, very happy with his state of affairs so far. He's already at level 4. His ganks are now on the table. He is going to be able to scale relatively freely because he's already got his Ionian boots. His clear is super healthy. His clear is super fast at this point. And 100 Thieves, they've dodged the first couple of bullets. They are now ready to go into the mid game where the Zac gets to play, and they will start being able to have the package in a couple minutes.
A top lane, good trade by Jenkins. We pretty much expect that top lane is going to be Jenkins' favored until I think level 9 is usually we start seeing Yone a little bit more self-reliant and able to start off some of these fights. So probably not going to see too much action from there, but going back into this mid lane, they are constantly looking for the pressure on one another. Triple is not relenting any kind of pressure away from Jimian and is looking to see if he can force him back again.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty impressed with the way that Jimian is just standing and fighting, but it is one of those things where if you're ever wrong about the amount of damage that Triple can do, it can go wrong very quickly, and Rosethorn's behind him.
Yeah, look at this flank. He's flashed away, but the knock-up from Breezy, the Ignite 2 for first blow. Now Meech is in a little bit of trouble, pulled back in by the Searching Strike, so they can take 1-for-1 at the moment with Breezy in the thick of everything. Looking for the fight onto Bmfx. They've got to make sure they're cutting this back. Look at Triple on the other side, getting that damage onto Bmfx, but with the Rend, it's not enough to secure the kill on a Breezy. Instead, he looks to re-engage, getting Will's forced elastic slingshot out of there.
Okay, so CLG are finding a bit of a punish, but the question is going to be, is it enough? You still got a kill going over to Bmfx. He was still able to take some of that fight, and there's still plenty of CS. Oh, Tenacity.
Tenacity,
gotta go back.
There it is, looking for the Gnarl. Throws him into the wall, but wasn't close enough to be able to get the stun. But still, good trade of damage there in the top lane from each side. But let's rewind the clocks a bit. Let's look back and kind of reminisce on how that play really unfolded in the bot lane, and that just seems like it really is the side favor towards the side of CLG.
Oh,
the fact that you get, oh, wait a minute, I maybe have to put a pause on the going on to the pause into the back line, because right now we got Tenacity with a lot of damage on Jenkins, even flashing forward, trying to see if he can snap back, get that extra damage, but it's not enough to take down Jenkins. Both of them on nearly enough, and there it is, one sweep picks up a kill.
Oh no, I was hoping to fanboy over Jenkins there, but it's Tenacity once again showing who's boss. Tenacity, our #1 top laner, able to brawl it out. Both of them flashing in that, both of them looking for these opportunities to play, and it's still the Yone who comes out on top a little bit earlier than we were expecting, but now he gets to back away, get a Zeal. He is in so much control.
It's usually level 9 when see that self-reliance coming into effect for Yone, but here Tenacity's level 7, picking up a solo kill on Jenkins by the skin of his teeth through how close that fight was back and forth from each side. But now it's just, even though the bot lane play was in favor of CLG, they've got the top side of the map looking in pretty fairly decently.
So now, Busio kind of hanging out in the mid lane, going to be able to help Jimian get it in. Jimian's got a Hex Drinker.
Okay, look at Triple. He's playing aggressively. You already got the Hex Drinker burned by Jimian, and now that there's a potential flank, Stretching Strikes, getting a little bit of extra damage, and a nice maneuver there from Busio to make sure he does not escape.
That was hot. That was really hot coming out from Boost here, right? Going over the wall to make sure he can get there to triple if he tries to escape, but then flashing at the last moment to guarantee the stun. That was good stuff coming through from Busio, making sure that they're going to lock everything down. And so 100 Thieves, they are in control. Will, already level 6, already in a position where he is even and or ahead of where Rosethorn is. His top lane's winning, his mid lane's winning, his bottom lane's winning. 100 Thieves, they not only have a composition that scales, but they're good enough to pilot it early on.
Yeah, and now for the side of 100 Thieves, it's net them 1,000 gold lead, and we take a look at where the gold has been allocated. It's mostly just spread out throughout these members on the team. Getting a lot of gold on the side of Tenacity's Yone as well is going to start to pay dividends soon.
Yeah, nobody's weak on 100 Thieves, and that is one of the big things that makes me think that they are in a pretty crushing position. Right, the engine would say that 100 Thieves are going to win this game most of the time, but we have to ask who the options are on CLG to really push for an advantage, and it is triple that I'm mostly going to be looking at from this spot. Right, he's got that first kill, he's already forced Jimmy to go for the Hex Drinker. Oh,
okay. Fate sealed. Gnarled, a nice buffer on the side of Tenacity to continue this fight. On to Jenkins, getting the knockup with the Tornado as well. The Thwomp will actually stun, but not delay. It's a kill again for Tenacity solo top side.
Tenacity is so good. Tenacity is so good, man. Watching him cancel out multiple crowd control uses from Jenkins is ridiculous. The fact that he's able to get it through and basically dodge out on the Wallop and the Gnar immediately back to back just puts him in a crushing position here in the top one. He gets the wave in. Those 2 solo kills are worth so much extra experience, even more than the gold that he's picked up. He's going to control this for basically the rest of the game. And Jenkins on this Gnar, it's not a champion I know him for particularly well, but he's going to be if I'm this Gnar, I'm crying.
Oh, yeah. You're not getting back in this matchup anymore. It looked like you could have possibly before, but now it is doom and gloom. With the 100 Thieves getting inside angles on everything now. They might have had a poor bot lane fight earlier on, but getting the kill mid lane, where Busio was able to help take down triple, then the top side double up solo kills, might net them this control, even with this fight here. Attempted. Bmfx is not in the vicinity, and that's going to be a nice route, but no kills just yet. Flashes away. 100 Thieves survive with Rosler low. They could look for the fight underneath. Now they've already lost Will. He's into the Bloblet form. They try to see if they can pick up this kill. Triple will finish off Will, so they at least get 1, and now they might be getting 2. Because Bmfx, he got himself caught out a little too far forward. Busio does not have the ult to make sure that it can get Reset City. Instead, it's peppering them with the missiles from Jimmy and not finding anyone low enough to pick up a kill on.
Oh, so close though. Multiple members of CLG barely surviving, but they come out ahead anyway. We said Triple needed to find the lead. He finds another kill. He finds another assist, and it was that was one of the scrappiest fights we've ever seen.
It was, and I was just saying how, it looks like 100 Thieves have made up for the fight that happened earlier where CLG were able to catch them out and get good advantages in the bot lane. And then suddenly, almost the exact same kind of fight happened again, favoring the side of CLG, getting them back into this game at even gold.
Now, I do have to criticize something about 100 Thieves so far. I hate this package from Jimian. Right? Like, what are you using this package for?
There's no dragon.
There's no dragon.
And now you're just going to waste the timers where you can't really effectively use them.
So what this means is now, 1, it's not going to be up for the next dragon, right? Because it is a 5-minute cooldown from when you use it, so you have to use it before the dragon is dead in order to make sure that it's even up at all for the next fight. And 2, he does nothing with it in the meantime, right? So he's basically saying that we don't need it for the next dragon. He needs to make a play with it happen now in order to justify it, but he's spotted out this is a wasted package.
And look at where Will is, same with Rosethorn, both on the same half of the map. They look for the fight. Jimmy's already used the package, so he can't really get out of there effectively. He's taking way too much damage coming in from Triple. The root, it's secured. The distortion's in. All you need is one more auto. It will be the Q instead for Triple to get his kill on Jimmy in.
Yeah, and that is disastrous, right? This is supposed to be your point of strength as Corki. You giving up a kill is giving Triple so much power in this game. Triple, he wasn't the player that I was expecting to pop off in this game and have the tools to actually potentially carry, but he's the one who has actually found it. And now when he already has the loons completed, he can also threat.
Yeah, he's 3-1 as well on LeBlanc. He can start roaming around this map, or does he even really need to when your bot lane starting to win like this? Looking for Bmfx to flash in from Meech to secure a kill. The Fate's Call does get the knockup, but it will not help Busio turn the fight around.
And they're winning the bottom lane too, right? This is not a lane that's supposed to be winning just quite yet. Callista Pyke didn't quite find it, and Rosethorn looking for Tenacity.
Using the ult to disable the turret. Tenacity's got a little bit of damage back. Even with the press of the attack, the shield for Rosethorn will keep him pretty safe. It's triple that's the real one you have to fear.
Yeah, both of these teams are really pushing the limits of what is possible. Tenacity doesn't have his ultimate, but he does have the flash available.
Yeah, but I don't know if you want to go for that. Yeah, the thing is, it's still risky, right? Because you can get instantly stunned by Rosethorn. So then you lose a lot of that damage initially, unless you're going for like a play like this, where you're trying to see if you can cancel some recalls, and unfortunately coming up just shy.
Just a little bit too slow, right? We saw a similar thing earlier when Kumo tried to stop Surdy's back, but Nasty's not blowing his flash for it this time. But he is in control of the top lane, and now, with 100 Thieves a bit more confident, they have Will able to play for the Rip Arrow.
Oh no, Bmfx, you can't be in the spot lane. You can't be in the spot lane without Busio, especially because you're just giving over more gold to the side of CLG and Meech. 2, 1, and 4, really right on the heels of being the secondary carry behind Triple.
Yeah, I mean, we said that they needed to win this bottom lane, and they are currently doing that, right? They are beating up on Bmfx and Busio and putting themselves in a spot where the Senna can potentially try and match the scaling of several of these members. But even with Meech scaling on this champion, their tools for trying to win are... Oh, God.
Okay, well, this could be a big pick. They've already used the Devourer prior, too, to try to see if they can secure the kill onto Bmfx. Meech was able to cut it out, but that's going to be the snapback kill for Tenacity, and the pull back in on a Breezy. He's got thick skin, but not thick enough to survive the execute damage that can come in from Busio. As Busio, Tenacity, bad spot to be in. They've lost Busio. Tenacity, he's on the run as well. The wrong way from his team to try to defend, but he can snap back. He can delay a little bit so the rest of his team can try to back him up, but they just couldn't get there in time. And Triple will find himself a killing spree.
Yeah, Triple the recipient of that. Fortunately for 100 Thieves, it wasn't a shutdown going over just yet, but 100 Thieves, they're being a little bit over-aggressive in some of their plays, and it's allowing CLG to punish them, right? Triple constantly in the right spot on the map, constantly punishing 100 Thieves for going for these plays, and he's the one who can get in. I was going to say that they're going to have to worry about what Jimmy's going to do when he hits level 16, and his AD ratio and his ultimate goes from like 0.2 to like 1, right? He just gets so much extra damage. But the fact that Triple is in a spot where he can play with Fog of War and look for these fights later on is absolutely ridiculous.
We see this replay. It starts off pretty good for Tenacity, but I feel like they just need to bail after that. They got the kill.
Yeah.
They over-aggressed to make sure they can get 2 kills, and then it's a good punish from CLG.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those plays where you just have to respect that you don't know where CLG is. And there are players, like, I think the classic example is Wicked for, like, Evil Genius's EU, right? When he was just like, yeah, you just assume they're not there, right? And you will just go for the duel, and you will find wins because of it. But sometimes this happens, right? Yeah. Like, sometimes you're wrong. If you make an assumption, you will not always be right about that. So 100 Thieves thought they could outplay it. They did a ton of 4v5s last week, but not this time.
That is true. You kind of have to give some respect. You got to look for plays like they're fishing for a hook onto Breezy, but now Will takes a big brunt of damage from Meech. He's on the 2 items, got the Eclipse already in his inventory, and I'm curious to see how many souls stacked up already for Meech.
We will have to pay attention to that, right? He does a lot of damage to Nasty, goes for another fight.
He's got 2 levels over Jenkins as well. So he can bully him, but you still gotta be patient. You gotta be careful, because Jenkins, he's got a lot of damage, especially when he's in his mini form. Not gonna be able to land the boulder. Instead, look and see if he can get the Gnar ult into the wall. There it is, gonna be able to solo out Tenacity. Jenkins is back in.
There you go, Jenkins coming back to fight as well. CLG defending the faith here. Jenkins, he just dodges out, right? You need to get onto Gnar multiple times, but this time Tenacity couldn't even do it once.
Well, and speaking of getting out, Rosethorn will jump over the wall, brings the Storm on the other side of the Baron Pit to make sure he gets out. And at this moment now, CLG, they find themselves with a comfortable gold lead. They're getting turrets in these side lanes. They're making sure they split up the pressure. It's a 2-2-1 where They'll probably lose this tier 1 in mid lane thanks to the help of Shelly, but they've got angles that they can use to now punish these members of 100 Thieves.
Yeah, and you don't want to give triple angles, right? That's a triangle.
Especially when he... Oh, it could be a square.
But he's a triple angle. What do you want from me?
Well, I mean, isn't a triple square just like a cube or something like that?
I don't know. Maybe it's a tesseract. We can get back into that, but right now, it is definitely a spot where triple kind of runs the rift, and the fact that Jenkins was able to turn around that last fight up against Tenacity gives them a
Two
lot
levels
of hope.
down.
2 levels down.
2 levels down. That's the thing that's big for me, Josh.
Still down 1,000 gold.
Yeah, and he was able to turn it around because Tenacity did not respect the hyperstacks and how much damage Mini-Gnar can get onto you if you're not all-inning right away.
Yeah, and this is one of the things, right, about the Gnar and about like this Yone matchup is, yes, if Tenacity lands the Q, Jenkins is like basically dead, right? He has to get out of there. But if the Q doesn't land, if Jenkins can dodge it without having to commit the hop, then Jenkins can win that fight because he just dances around. It is so difficult. Oh, what is this package?
Again, yeah, a little. Though this one, I'm gonna
like this
at
one
least
is
back
less
up,
egregious.
Right, it's less egregious. Because at least the timer will still be around the same time the next dragon will
100 Thieves
spawn.
needs to fight now.
But now that's why they're looking for the fight. They've got the package Jimmy, and when are you going to use it? There it is, jumping over, but not actually getting any damage on anyone. It just splits up the fight so they can hit the pick on a Breezy with Rosethorn walking right over the tar pit, and he takes a lot of damage for it. Looking at the back line, not able to get the kills. There's the world. Now there's the kills. Now they're following it up while Bmfx was able to get a lot of run stacks, and Jimmy turns it around as well. This is a chaotic fight right now, Josh. This has been a 3-for-3 across the board.
That was absolutely nuts, and that was while 100 Thieves had the package up, right? Like, despite the fact that I did not like the fact that they had the package at all, the fact that they were able to use it justifies the play, right? Suddenly, 100 Thieves were able to go even in a spot where they are still a scaling squad. They still have Zach, who's building up. They still have Corky, who's going to be relevant later, and they get the shutdown onto triple. So we're seeing a lot of play coming through these teams, and 100 Thieves, they will have more tools later. Will is going to get strong. Jimmy is going to get strong. But it's a question of, can they clean up a lot of these kind of like ego fights that they're going for, right? Like,
let's take a look at, yeah,
this is definitely a fight where, like, you know, do they need to take this fight? Like, it's not a terrible fight because you have the package, but it's also the kind of fight where you are taking a skill check when you can just play a little bit safer later on. And luckily for 100 Thieves, they are good enough that the skill check goes even.
Yeah, and now, Triple, he's still pretty far ahead, though. He's got that Shadow Flame completed this time around, nearly takes Jimmy down with just one cast of spells, not even a full rotation of them. So they secure control around this Dragon Pit. There's no package, there's no worry on the side of 100 Thieves contesting it.
Did you wish you had a package there?
Yeah, but you can possibly have a fight afterwards. They got a lot of damage on the Rosethorn using that Fate Seal from the side of Tenacity. But here's Jenkins. He's mega. He can dive in. They've got a lot of damage on the Will. They're going to pop the Bloblets and look for Jimmy in afterwards. But they can kill off Will, at least find 1-for-1 with the Dragon on top.
Yeah, you wish you had a package there? Yeah, you do. That's the kind of play that goes so well for 100 Thieves if they aren't trolling when they're picking up their packages, right? 100 Thieves, they're doing so many steps, right? But you got to get all of them correct. And now, Will goes down. He's still scaling. It's still going to be fine, but that should have been your dragon. That should have been 100 Thieves that is going to be picking up this Hextech Dragon. And now Bmfx is almost dead.
He'll live. He'll live. Thanks in part to that Immortal Shield Bow, there are some ways that these pretty squishy members on the side of 100 Thieves cannot get burst out by someone like Triple, but they give windows as well. That's why you don't see a BMX here at all. He bailed, went for the base, sacrificing that tier 1 to the side of CLG.
Oh, who is this? Oh, it's Will.
Next gate, it's Will. Oh no, right on top of the stun. He has to use the slingshot right over the wall. Only a little bit of a hop, skip, and a jump away.
Yeah. I also got to point out another interesting decision coming through from Jimmy, right? He's going with the Leandri's build, right? Normally, I don't like to talk about items, but this is one where suddenly he's not going to be one-shotting people with rockets anymore, right? He's going to be trying to burn down Jenkins and Rosethorn. Now, his rockets still hurt quite a bit, and you can probably like 2 or 3 shot with big ones against people like Meech, but you don't have the magic pen that the Loons actually provides, and so it gives him a very different kind of scaling. He wants these longer fights instead of these long, drawn-out pokes until you can go in with Will.
Yeah, it's really going to be more reliant on finding, like you said, the long drawn out poke, but also Will. I want to turn the attention to Will on this Zach. You talked about scaling and how he's going to be really effective later on, especially when he gets the demonic embrace built. But looking at the inventory, it's looking like a Thornmail second item as opposed to going for the demonic embrace to get a little bit more extra tankiness and damage.
Yeah, I don't dislike this build, right? It's one of those things where you are going to be relevant in terms of your damage kind of no matter what. Like, Zach does a lot more damage than a lot of people give him credit for, but he also recognizes, like, if there's something his team needs, it's not more damage, right? You have Corki, Yone, Callista. If that's not enough damage for you, then you should probably... And Pike, right? Like, you're going to be A-okay. So, Will, he did a good job early on in the game not falling behind the Volibear and making sure that he can consistently farm. But now he's at the part of the game where he's supposed to be the big man on campus. He's supposed to be not the journeyman, but the master, and he controls the fights for 100 Thieves.
He's still waiting to complete that second item, while Rosethorn has gotten his second item already completed, giving a little bit of an edge to CLG. They've got a minor gold lead, but it's still back and forth. This is not really that big of a gold lead for the side of CLG.
True. And they are going to be dealing with some side lane issues. They will have some range issues, but Triple can find Jimmy in.
Oh, but they're scared. They saw that there's potentially some members of 100 Thieves nearby. I actually like the call to retreat instead of trying to see if they can burst down Jimian. He's got himself that Maw of Mortius, which makes it even more difficult for Triple to actually burst him down. So instead, waiting to see if they can catch him out alone, burst the shield, and then find a pick later.
Yeah, and Magical, we are transitioning our game from being like one of pushing lanes to one of vision, right?
It is, yeah, look at that.
Oh, okay. Shouldn't be anything here.
Keep going quickly. Yeah.
But because there's so much vision, whoever gets to determine the fights gets to win.
Well, they're looking for Meech. They draw him back in with the stretchy arms and get Will a lot of damage on the retreat. While Meech takes a bit of damage coming in from the big one from Jimian. Look at Tenacity, dives in, and even with the Devourer, it actually ends up being a two-man knockup. While Tenacity snaps back, make sure he's fine. It's Will who flashed in forward with the nice follow-up
They fight
damage.
Triple!
They've got the resets on the side of 100 Thieves. They've got the pick on the back line. That big one from Jimian still hurting like you talked about. Doesn't matter if you have the Ludens or not, you still can do so much damage on the squishy members of CLG.
And crazy stuff coming through. I thought for sure 100 Thieves had gone too far, but they find Triple. They find the main damage source. They find the person who's going to be going for these picks, and they take him down. He was the one that needed to survive, but he went right into the big brawl in the center. And now 100 Thieves, they do the same thing. They get the Baron. They're ready for the Dragon. This is the 100 Thieves roster and the composition really coming all together. But let's watch what happens with Triple and the way the 100 Thieves are actually able to catch him, right? As the teleport comes through, Triple's just kind of hanging out with the rest of the team. But the big thing is if he ever gets hit by this crowd control, he can't do a whole lot more. And so when he jumps in, when he tries to get on top of Bmfx, he gets caught by Will into an immediate stun from Busio. The two newer players coming through that we know Busio's sick. Will finds the triple, the one person he needs to get, gets him the Baron, gets him the Dragon, and now 100 Thieves are in total control.
That's the second time this game we've seen Busio with that flash snap stun. Last second, making sure that he finds out someone as mobile as Triple and gives them no reaction time to be able to get out of that one. And now they've gotten themselves a pretty sizable gold lead. They got a Dragon, so they're tied up on Dragons, using the package into the backline as well. Looking for Jenkins underneath this tier 2 with Will coming in on that one side, but now with the Gnarl, they've got a lot of damage. This might have been a little bit too far for the side of 100 Thieves with me taking so low but still alive. Looking at Rosethorn fighting in the backline, 1v4. He got one down. Breezy's on the other side. Make it two because they got the Bloblet pop, but the resets from Busio, pulling back in Triple, looking for the execute. Breezy, he's got him in his mouth, waiting to see if Busio can get into the backline because he can ignore those shields. Instead, he's just waiting it out patiently, not looking to dive in just yet. Instead, trying to see if they can take down this turret.
The Prowler's Claw coming through from Busio, almost picking up Jenkins. 100 Thieves win another skill check. But it's one that they're choosing to opt into, and now they have a huge lead. They have late game Zag, they have late game Corki. Like, this is 100 Thieves' game to lose. Triple, he had such a big lead, but he hasn't been able to convert it because 100 Thieves, they're controlling the vision. They're determining when fights are actually happening, and if you control vision in this kind of game with Pike, with Zach, with Corki, alone LeBlanc can't do enough.
Not at all, especially when you look at how much magic resist is being picked up across the board, trying to make sure that they're going to be able to survive some of the burst. Bmfx, Wit's End completed. We already know about the Mortius for Jimian, and I'm just waiting to see if there's going to be an MR item picked up by Will to mitigate anything that Triple could do.
Yeah, both he and Tenacity can pick up some MR, but they're not necessarily the most worried. Triple has an angle.
They
know now.
Now they'll know. Now they'll know. And even getting out the second part of the distortion. But the damage on Tenacity. He's underneath the turret, and he will be the target once he comes back up. Almost was able to turn it around, but it's a shutdown for Jenkins.
Ooh, just going a little bit too far. Going back into the Guardian Angel, he gets popped, and there's nothing left. Jimmy now needs to run.
Oh, but he's tagged by the tongue lash. He's even smote so they can get the slow on top of him and dive over the wall. Awooga, awooga. They have got the turnaround for CLG as they continue to dive further and further into the back line of 100 Thieves.
Yeah, 100 Thieves, again, going a little bit too aggressive. If Tenacity hits that, it's a very different world. Well, Triple is suddenly dead, but CLG with control on the map. This is dangerous, right? Because as this turret goes down, the game goes from one where CLG need to win 2 fights to win, or a devastating fight like very close to 100 Thieves base, to one where CLG, they don't need to win a fight that hard to potentially end the game from this position, right? With this turret going down, 100 Thieves just lost another life, basically.
But the one saving grace for 100 Thieves is when we look at the neutral objective timers, there isn't really anything to fight over at the moment. Just some vision control. Going back to that game state that you had talked about before, the ebb and flow, where CLG have been able to get good vision control over 100 Thieves. Should be now 100 Thieves getting back onto the map as CLG resets and pushing their own vision back into enemy territory.
So we'll start paying attention, right? It is, don't be fooled by the countdown timer in the top left. It is the teamfight timer until the Hextech Dragon. We're fighting over Hextech Soul, the most powerful soul in the game. And it is 100 Thieves.
Do you think we'll get it, though? I don't even know if I think the game will end before we can get to the soul.
I expect that one of these teams will be able to blow open the game before that point, right? You see 100 Thieves desperately trying to get the completed Ravenous Hydra onto Jimmy before the fight actually starts, and his Tenacity kind of just hangs out here. You know, you're seeing the vision. It has shifted back. While the topside vision has gone over to CLG, 100 Thieves control the relevant vision around the upcoming dragon.
And that at least gives them an inside edge towards that Hextech Dragon, the third one for either squad, putting them within soul point. But we can take a look at where the gold is and where it's allocated at the moment. And even though it looks like it's a far more even game for the side of CLG, they've been able to claw back from quite a large deficit. It still leads all across the board for 100 Thieves in the right places.
And as we pay attention, the things I have to be curious about are, one, is Jimian going to have a package for this fight? Is 100 Thieves going to be able to walk in?
Well, with 14 seconds remaining, Jimian not having the package available, CLG, they could test their limits. They can look for this play as they already get Busio away. Not going to have the dead man its undertow just yet. He'll have to wait a bit before he can try to dive in and find another miracle stun onto Triple like before.
Bmfx very far, and Triple, he's got lots of targets, right? Jimmy and Tenacity, Busio, Bmfx, they're all potential targets for him, and he can play with this fog of war as Tenacity's
playing aggressively. They're face checking, but he can snap back like that. His soul was unsealed, and now they lost that inside track onto the dragon. It will be burned down quickly by CLG, but you can tell. Instead, 100 Thieves are making the call to see if they can get on top of the Baron first. They have Callista on their team. They can take that down really quickly, and it's a secondary smite.
And they are controlling the vision. CLG has to come in, but they're going to get peppered with rockets. Oh, 100 Thieves give up the position.
Too worried that they could find themselves in a choke point where Jenkins, who is about to go mega, could punish them. Not sure how that call was working, but now that they've gone on their own resets, they've got the package for Jimian, and this could turn the tides if CLG had committed for the Baron. But they peel back off, and 100 Thieves, now the package is already being used by Jimian. They've got to force a play.
Yeah, Jimian, he's the one. Okay, yeah, he's still. I thought you said he used it. I'm like, what? There's no way. There's no way he accidentally presses it.
Picking it up.
Yeah.
Like, use it
okay. We're on the same page. We're on the same page. But this is 100 Thieves. They should try and force this fight here.
Gets difficult for CLG to work with that category, with that little choke, and they get a lot of damage onto the back line. They've taken out the jungler. No smite remaining for CLG, but a fight might be there. They've got Jenkins already mega. They forced out 100 Thieves off of the Baron with no package remaining. Controlling those tight corridors is going to be a little bit more difficult for 100 Thieves. So they just continue putting the pressure back, not relenting. They know they have the inside angle. There is no smite on the other side, and they got Kalista and smite from Will.
As they're posturing, I don't know if the 1 kill on Rosethorn is enough for the package, right? The package needs to be more powerful. You need to get more for it. You need to get the Baron, and now CLG reestablish. They will reestablish control of this part of the map. Triple will once again be able to set up shop in a fog of war, and just like those duelists in like Valorant, right? You are so afraid of face checking any of these people. You gotta be willing to take these duels, and there's not a lot of people who can do it, right? Like, Tenacity might be able to win that sometimes. Bmfx is going to die. Busio can leave. Jimmy is going to die, right? It is such a scary position.
Jimmy will be spotted out by Jenkins as he was looking for an angle, probably to deny some of the vision, now ebbing and flowing over to the side of CLG. They're able to clear out some of the earlier pressure that 100 Thieves had gained for themselves around that objective. With 2.5 minutes until the dragon spawns, it seems that 100 Thieves don't really want to start it. They know they don't have that package advantage this time around, so instead, they're trying to see if they could possibly split up the attention of CLG.
Yeah. The package will not be available when the next dragon spawns either. And you asked if we were going to see the Hextech Soul. Now we might, right? Because 100 Thieves weren't able to find a decisive lead. Okay. It does mean that we are more likely to fight over this Hextech Soul than anything else. And as long as Rosethorn is alive, he should be able to win these fights.
Well, and that's why you could tell that 100 Thieves, even if killing Rosethorn now would be a bit too early, they'd at least give him some priority around that quadrant of the map. An even game state at the moment, despite the fact that 100 Thieves still remain with the gold lead.
The game is still hanging on a knife's edge, right? I feel like I would normally just look at 100 Thieves composition and be like, yeah, they're winning. They have a Corky Zac at this point in the game. What more do you want? But they haven't necessarily been able to execute on it. And it's because players like, it was Triple for a long time, but it has quickly become Meech and Jenkins are such huge damage threats that 100 Thieves have not been able to interact with. Tenacity's ults haven't been landing. The package has not been threatening for the past several minutes.
We're getting to the point, too, when these carries are nearly fully built. You got nearly full items for Triple. You've only got half a component left now for Meech, where he could just work on finishing off that last item. Same thing over for Bmfx. A lot of these carries for each side are in a great position, but it's about who can get the angle first and who can find that ability to punish their opponents, especially when we look at 100 Thieves right now. Because with the Guardian's Angel, for Tenacity, it's back up. He had unfortunately lost it previously before that last fight. Now they can actually play around it.
Yeah. 100 Thieves, they are hitting the Baron right now. Tenacity and Will can two-man this. They have so much sustain, and there's no response from CLG. They pick it up.
Not at all. That was pretty clean by the side of 100 Thieves. We're able to get it right underneath the nose, and now with the pullback onto Rosethorn, they can get this kill onto Rosethorn. They can make sure that there's not going to be the Dragon Take with only 10 seconds remaining until it comes back up. Look at Tenacity. Doing a bit of damage onto Breezy, but not enough to stick. He'll be able to heal it up with a that thick skin. And Jenkins will be the one inside of the pit, looking to see if he can get the angle first. Well, Tenacity gets a lot of damage onto Breezy with Triple over the wall. That is going to be a poke-for-poke battle. Each side trying to win it out with how low Tenacity is. He might be that Guardian's Angel, but Busio, he's found his angle. 1 reset, 2 reset. He's got the damage for the team, and they are cleaning up CLG. Jenkins is going to be the last remaining fight, but he is not long for the world. It is a clean ace for 100 Thieves.
And what do we say? It was a vision game the whole time. 100 Thieves are able to two-man the Baron without CLG knowing. CLG, we even saw Jenkins starting to hit the Hextech Dragon, but at the end of it, 100 Thieves, every single member on this team can dictate when a fight happens. Every single member of this team had an opportunity to look good in this game, and at the end of it, 100 Thieves stand tall, improve to 8-3.
The scaling eventually comes through for 100 Thieves, where it was a rough mid-game, but 39 minutes into it, they claim victory in game number 1 against CLG Academy.
That's good stuff. I liked the composition from top to bottom. I liked every single champion they had. They had a couple of mishaps in the mid game, but that's okay. With a team that has this much raw talent, we can forgive that from them. As long as they are trying things, as long as they are still trying to show that they can go for all of these plays, it's going to be good. We know 100 Thieves is a good roster. They're coming in with this unique draft that no other team in Academy would ever be willing to play, and they won with it. So I'm excited to see how 100 Thieves are going to push the meta now that they are here. They're here to fight, and it's not just Team Liquid who says, yeah, we're just play every meta champ and call it a day.
I'm excited, honestly. I love seeing drafts like this, innovation from a team. But looking at the other side, CLG Academy, it's not like they just rolled over and let the game go over to 100 Thieves. They did a good job of battling back, keeping that relatively close. They were one dragon away from getting the soul, the Hex Tech Dragon Soul. We didn't end up seeing the soul onto that game, but we did see victory for 100 Thieves. We're going to toss it to a break. When we come back, we'll have, I guess, me and Josh doing something. I don't know yet. We'll figure it out.